Hello everyone. Just a little video to how do I say it? I do have a job to do overall. However, I am limited in what I can do and say in my job with what's going on in my life. And that job will be what you're viewing right here. Alright, so what does the medical field and the transportation field have in common? What do mechanics in general do? Additionally, what does the medical field, as well as the transportation field, as well as the structural field, all have in common? Let's see if you can guess by the end of the video before I even say it. Think about this. People working on the structures, not the ones working in the structures. You know, like handymen, roofers, general contractors, subcontractors, a lot of the fields out there have something in common. Loggers, to most, all they do is cut down trees and get them to the mill. Well, that is the goal, but the bigger picture is not necessarily the swapping of long green for large green. Think about that one. If you're not sure of what that statement means, think about it. My goal right now is to get you thinking. Now, ultimately, I can assure you that if you have an electrical problem, that is very serious. Who do you call? An electrician. Now, in addition, before you call the electrician, who are you calling? The power company in some situations. Let's say you have a plumbing issue. Who do you call? The plumber. Okay. Let's say you have a busted window. in today's society, who fixes the window? Usually a contractor or a handyman. Let's say you have a leaking. Now, let's say you have a situation where you notice let's see here. Let's say you notice water coming in through your exhaust fan when you're underneath it and it's raining. Who do you call? You call a roofer. Now, oddly enough, certain situations, a lot of the above work hand in hand together. Because of the very tight deadlines and all of this crap that is all greed driven. Now, I could go really in depth as to old home construction from the 1800s. We're talking really old. Wood frame construction. I could go way in depth about it. You will notice that you typically have way more structural weight in the construction in general. Over the years, I have seen buildings that are new buildings. They're literally, the buildings are just built so lightweight. It's no wonder so many homes sustain serious damage. Because you're sacrificing actual structure. Okay. This chair I'm sitting in, yeah, there's a lot of chemicals and stuff to slow down the burn. But those chemicals, when that chair begins to burn, it's off-gassing very toxic chemicals. This is all built out of greed. Okay? This very building I sit in right now, it is a very greed-operated construction design. 600 square foot, 1-bedroom rent, $610 currently. I can compare that to Spokane, that is to a place that is 35 miles away, same price. Well, I'm not going to say exact same price, but it is slightly more expensive. You're looking at $635 a month in rent, way more amenities, and 900 square feet. $35 miles away, roughly, as by driving. Now, mind you, the commute time, if you take the highest priority plowed routes, being as we're up here in the north, I can assure you that your commute time on average on that 35-mile route. Mind you, you literally have about a mile to a state route from here, which is technically a highway. So the speed limit is around 45, 50, maybe 55, depending on what section of the state route you're on. And you just go continuously all the way to 90 eastbound. And it is, you will average around between 60 and 62 miles an hour the whole drive all the way out, all the way to the next turn. And this is in ideal circumstances. Let's say you time it right, or you're driving at night. You're averaging about 40 miles an hour on your commute time. That is assuming, that is if everything is going completely according to plan. In the sense that you don't hit every single red light. That road in Spokane that I'm talking about is Division. There's an old saying out there, and it really does ring very true on Division especially. You hit one, you will hit them all. Every red light, you hit one, you will hit them all. Now, in addition to that, I really don't see how these, quote, fuel-saving traffic lights actually save fuel. I have found that if I hit one green light, I get the best fuel economy because I hit them all going down Division. And that was when I was in driver's ed. I currently have no license. Never had a license, but I had a permit to drive, a learner's permit. Took classes. I went to driver's ed, okay? And some of the comments were from the driving instructor that was riding beside me. It was always the same one. There was a different one in the classroom, but the same one sitting in the driver's ed car with me. This is where it gets interesting in the sense that, how do I word this? It was really interesting to see. Every once in a while I glance over like that to see the look on his face, okay? I was maneuvering that car like I had been driving a semi. Well, like I had been driving as if I had to pay for every dime of operating expense that car accumulated. I drove like I not only had to pay every expense, I also had to do all the maintenance. I drove like that because typically, I do like the smell of brakes. Just not mine, period. I really don't like the smell of my brakes. And I'll tell you right now, it was not easy. because grand scheme of things, learning to drive that way, I spent a lot of time in a simulator. Well, in a situation where I learned that the cleaner you keep it, the faster you'll be. All across the board. The cleaner you keep her, the faster she'll be. And, yes, as a mechanic, yeah, I get a few vehicles in here and there that needed repairs that were unexpected. Okay? 9 out of 10, it was a wear component. It irritates me when people say, oh, it's fine. It doesn't irritate me on the outside when I'm in front of the customer. But what irritates me about it when I'm not around them is I knew that they were going to need a tow out to my shop. Whether it was, typically it was just the neighborhood. But all in all, I serviced a fairly decent area. And my typical response vehicle that I responded in for roadside assistance, little Yamaha side-by-side. That's all it was. Had a little agrifab trailer behind it. Don't buy agrifab trailers. They suck. They really do. They say they're rated for 1,500 pounds. Yeah, 1,500 pounds if you're hauling a frickin' block. One big giant block that takes up the entire bed of the trailer. That is a rigid block with no give to it on smooth ground. You load that sucker with firewood and you're going under uneven ground. Hey, I got pretty good at operating the Rhino. Not just driving it, operating it with the trailer behind me. Yeah, there were incidents where I had to write the trailer all over again. But anyone who says they're perfect is lying to you. And it irritated me when a certain family member, I'm not going to go out directly and name them, I'm just going to tell you that if you look down my subscription list, you'll find them. You will find them. It might take you a while, but you will find which two I'm talking about. They claimed that she was perfect in every way. I can tell you right now, she is far from perfect. He is far from perfect. I will go out there and say that when it comes to a work environment where we are working together, too much of a micromanager. But when it came to giving advice, excellent advice giver. Not only that, an excellent teacher. when he realized, his biggest fault is he instantly expects, and his biggest flaw is, and I understand that when you work side by side with people that do the stuff day in, day out, and maintain proficient, excellent skills, they actually are really high quality people to work with, and it is too easy to fall into the I really don't get why you can't do it thing when it comes to teaching someone. What it comes down to is some people are more kinesthetic, hands-on. Some people, a lot of people, some people learn best directly, hands-on, physically moving things around, physically doing it. Some people learn best visually. Now, kinesthetic learners across the board utilize all of these that I'm listing to be able to do it kinesthetically. And that they learn and I'm not making an unqualified statement here. I'm just going to flat out say kinesthetic learners usually learn the fastest. They usually learn the fastest. Literally, I could sit there and tell you how to fix your RV right over the phone. I could tell you what diagnostic tools you will need ahead of time to diagnose any and all problems. If it's an electrical problem, one, you're going to need a good multimeter. I'm not talking a little cheapo. I'm talking one. Okay, my uncle has one of these. I swear to you, the multimeter he has is extremely invaluable. It literally reads the electromagnetic field so well. It'll tell you down to the 10th of a volt exactly what voltage is going through the line. Yes, you'll have to set it to the correct setting on the multimeter, but it'll tell you exactly what it's reading through that line without you ever having to physically touch metal to metal. And that is an extremely good diagnostic tool to have. Because not only can it do that just by opening the jaws and going in, wrap and just hang it right from the wire, you could live watch what's happening as things are happening. In addition, it still has the ability to hook leads up to it where you could set it to, you could use those same exact settings aside from switching over to using the test leads. And across the board, I love those kind of meters. I guarantee you that meter is no cheapo. It is probably in the $300+ range. But, it really is an invaluable tool. I cannot tell you the importance to have a very high quality multimeter like that with you at all times when you are dealing with anything that has electrical stuff going on. Now, another huge tool you're going to need to diagnose stuff is an external continuous power source. Usually a generator is really good, because sometimes, okay, I really do say, for a lot of reasons, that when it comes down to it, the very best tool you can have in your arsenal with especially today's RVs are tire pressure is a good tire pressure gauge, a very high quality multimeter. You will never think twice of, you will look there, you will walk around with that thing. People will see you diagnosing issues on your coach way faster than anyone else around you, and that's a job opportunity. That one tool right there could tell you right away what the issue is. It could diagnose everything from dead shorts to bad ground to, let's say, for instance, it can even do, it's got a feature, it can tell you without putting any power into the system, without any need to put any power into the system to do this particular feature. It is literally called the audible ohm test, or the audible loop test. Okay? It's a great feature. I've used it numerous times on several multimeters. I love them. I love that feature. I could literally take a clamp, take a little gator gripper and a jumper, and secure that wire, secure one lead to a known spot. Okay, let's say there is a short in a circuit that is not between the battery and the rest of the electrical system on your coach. Okay? And that distribution panel that distributes that whole power, all the power from your batteries to the entire coach. You could literally just pop it right open. Yeah, it's a very involved process. And yes, you're going to need a screwdriver. It's okay to go skimp a little bit on it, but you still want a decent quality one. You don't just want one screwdriver, you want a multitude of them. Don't go with those little bit sets, little driver. Only you want one of those. You want a bit set and a driver, a little ratcheting handle type deal. Because sometimes you're going to come into a situation where you don't have, where power is literally a luxury, and preserving every ounce of electricity on the coach is critical. When you need to repair something, or when you just need to snag up a loose fastener, beautiful thing. Okay, I'm not absolutely dead set on. I freely admit there are some areas it is perfectly fine to skimp on. You can get don't go with the rock bottom price. You can afford, it is perfectly okay with some tools. Just go ahead and go low end on it. Not rock bottom, but lower end of the quality scale. And just remember, you will find yourself seeing all that money you invest into those tools. Okay, a torque wrench, a high quality torque wrench with that you on one side you've got a 3/8 drive, on the other side you have 1/2 inch drive. Okay, the reason for a torque wrench that you can use a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch driver on, it is very important in keeping the overall weight down and tool load, and overall load of tools to have on hand in the event that, hey, you need to change the tire. Also, 1/2 inch breaker bar, you can get away with a 3/8 breaker bar very easily. Just remember, have a cheater bar with you. It doesn't have to be a big cheater bar, probably about long as my arm there, 4 arms length, just to extend that handle out just a little more. Go ahead and get it if you really are dead set on, I have got to save money on things, that's not one spot you want to skimp on quality. You could either go with a high quality breaker bar, or you could go with a medium quality. You gotta either go with a 3/8 drive, high quality breaker bar, or you could go with a 1/2 inch drive, medium quality breaker bar. Now, the reason I say that you can go the larger drive on the breaker bar and not go so far out on the expense level is because you're dealing with a breaker bar that can handle 1/2 inch drive. I absolutely hate seeing these folding bull crap, all this crappy, all this stuff that folds up to save room. Okay, if you get the right tool that does the job really well, remember, you can always use that breaker, Also, another really great investment, especially if you do a lot of freeway driving, is I would definitely say an electric powered. I would definitely go, probably Makita, DeWalt, or something along those lines. Don't go super far off brand. Don't mess with Black & Decker. I have had 3 different Black & Decker power tools. There are some things Black & Decker does well. It is not automotive tools that are electric. Okay, you want at least a 2-speed setting and deep impact gun, because you can get those lug nuts on pretty damn quick. Just remember, hand start the threads. Don't go all macho and start those threads with the damn thing, because I will tell you right now, I have seen way too many times where somebody screwed up epically with one of those and stripped threads. Okay, do it right, but get it done as quickly as possible when you're on the side of the road in a bad spot. Also, don't be afraid to have a tow truck guy come out and tow you to a safer spot. Most times, they are way more than willing to do it And sometimes they're even willing to provide cover for you for a very low charge, if any charge at all. Also, you want a CB radio in your vehicles, in each of your vehicles. They may seem like they've gone totally by the wayside. I am very strongly feeling about this because I see it a lot out where I live. I'm not saying everybody does it. I'm saying a lot of people do. A very large, way more prevalent out in a rural area. You will see people radioing on channel 9 for help. And, if you're really serious about knowing about, hey, should I pick a different route way in advance? That is a huge tool. All you got to do, keep it tuned to Breaker 19, that's channel 19, and just listen. If you hear something like, if you hear this over the radio, Breaker 19, traffic is total shut down for at least a couple hours, just go ahead and pull into a rest area if there is no way around it that is easy to negotiate, that is negotiable, that would be worth the time. Vantage area, no doubt about it. There's a rest stop right there in Vantage. And then right on the other side of the bridge, right at the top of the hill, right around the top of that hill, coming back up, going up from that bridge again, on the other side of the river from Vantage is another rest stop. It is perfectly fine to pull into a rest stop. And when you hear, traffic is going to be, it's at a standstill for a while. Y'all might want to take a detour. All of y'all might want to take a detour. Or just be prepared to wait. Okay, that is valuable information. You can go, you hear that over there, it's just, if it's just you go, whatever. And then don't be afraid to get on the radio and say, 10-4, that means message received. This is a relay of your message to drivers further in behind me that are also equipped with a CB on this channel that I'm about to state. Let go of the mic. Let go of the button. Wait a moment. Breaker 19, and then restate the information that you have received. Hell, if you're out there in the middle of nowhere and you got your coach with you, your RV, let's say you're pulling a bumper pull, or let's say you're pulling a coach, or let's say you're driving a motorhome, by all means, just pull into the rest stop. Get a bite to eat, make something to drink. Pass the time. Don't be afraid at all to throw the antenna up on the put up an antenna on your coach. Now put up the antenna on your coach and turn on a TV to have it scan. Turn on the TV to a news station that is not mainstream, preferably local news. Um, you just kind of scan through the channels. Keep your eyes out for something like accident on, let's say you're at near Vantage and you received word that there's an accident on I-90 and going the direction you're heading. Later on down the road, you can find out very important details about it without ever pulling out your cell phone. And honestly, you should have your cell phone right there. Not necessarily directly within arm's reach. I'd say more of a, just turn the ringer off. Don't drive distracted, but, just pay attention. Put down the phone. You don't need to text and drive when you're in control of a very big vehicle. And you know what? You definitely don't need to be texting and driving in speeds in excess of 50 miles an hour. I am all for using, if you're out there and you pull off onto the, if you're way out in the middle of nowhere and you got some music on your phone and you can play it audibly in your vehicle while you're rolling, by all means, pick an album right there on your phone. That is not, don't use internet-based stuff when you're out in the middle of nowhere. It is very likely that it will not work very well. You can literally bank on communications being very difficult way out in rural America. And, I lived in an area, and people can vouch for this a lot. Especially someone who lives 20 miles from me. It's about if you obey the speed limits, which, my mom and I, we were the few that ever obeyed the speed limits at all out in that area. And at any level. You put me on the road I lived on, if I was on the road I lived on, long straight stretch, quarter mile stretch, I could see all the way to the net road. We literally lived on a dead end road. Well, it wasn't dead on per se, it was more at a cul-de-sac, but in all honesty, you really, really wanted to be very careful about what you did if you had a long vehicle on that road. Because, if you were not at all going down somebody's driveway, you could bank on doing at least a 20-point turn. And I will state this much. Don't buy a Jeep anymore. They're worthless. They're luxury vehicles that are built for less than what Jeeps used to be built for. You got a lot of plastic and just pure corner cutting. All in all, the amount of plastic used on the vehicle, a bumper, little plastic bumper covers. Not only do they just shatter upon impact in most cases, but they also only save you about, an ounce in material. Maybe 3 ounces at most. I personally prefer steel. Big, sturdy, structural stuff. None of this aluminum shit. None of it. if I were to buy a 20, any pickup that where the bed or the cab or the cab was aluminum, oh yeah, I'd be taking some steps in those things, like taking that crappy aluminum bed off, selling it, taking that money, buying raw material, firing up a welder, and just building a bed that I know will last a lifetime. And I can tell you right now, a roll cage is an excellent investment, even if it's external. You're looking at, and materials, around $200, and adding maybe probably about 300 pounds to the vehicle, but the protection that buys you is unparalleled. Notice I said roll cage, not roll bar. And having an integrated, having additional means of restraining a load, any chance of a load coming through any part of the back of the cab and killing you, when had that load not gone into that cab, you probably would have lived. Hey, saving your own ass? Can you put a price on that? We have got to bring more diversification to individuals now more than ever. I am way more than willing to give lessons and stuff, demonstrations, anything and everything to help someone. Disclaimer, I am not certified in pretty much anything, other than being a pain in the ass. And not only that, I got pretty good customer service skills overall. I will literally, I give power to my customers, all while still protecting myself financially to the best of my ability. And the reason I say that is because, let's say you have a lifter go bad in your engine, okay? You've already got, your mechanic has already billed you for 95% of his time alone to be able to, to do the job of, if you just want one lifter replaced, it's only going to add probably about, maybe, at the end of the day, it's going to cost you more in lifters. But, that lifter, that one lifter you replaced, that did damage to your engine, because you didn't get a preemptive rebuild or get it into a mechanic when it was giving you a telltale sign, like going through a quart every 1,000 on a 4-banger. That's a pretty big amount of oil. On diesels, if you are going through anything more than a quart every 1,000, your engine is trying to tell you something. In some cases, not all, some engines, they just naturally, they will naturally kind of burn no matter what, you're always going to have some burning of the oil. especially in diesels. So, but don't let that trick you into thinking that you're always going to add oil. Okay? Dipsticks on diesels, there's only a scale that's about that long. If it's the top of that scale, take your hand on the dipstick before you go to dip it back in after you've wiped it in. Prevent it from going in a hand width. See if it is somewhere underneath the top of that scale. Just keep going hand width by hand width till you find where it stops reaching the top of the scale. Some diesel engines, you'll literally see a dipstick, literally about, you'll see a scale easily as from that crease right there. See that major crease in my wrist? Where I bring my arm over like that? To the tip of my finger. It's about 6 inches. Sometimes you'll see a scale that damn long. Depending on the size of the diesel engine, the manufacturer, a lot of stuff. But, unlike gasoline engines, it's almost like a little wire that is attached to that scale, and you will never get an accurate reading anywhere on that wire. Typically, they are spring steel wires or a very strong wire, usually made of steel, on diesels. I can go on and on about things you got to keep in mind. Oil can actually, and notice I'm going to do air quotes here, grow. Well, really, if you notice, see, never fill your diesel engine with oil all the way up to the top of your scale. You want a little leeway so that you can actually see if it's growing actively. If it begins to grow and you don't know exactly what you're doing, it literally costs like $30 to send an oil sample in for testing to through a lubrication specialist. You could send an oil sample in. It'll tell you that testing. It will give you a ratio of. It will literally give you a pie. It'll give you results of how much was found, percentage. What was found in your oil. Is it just dirty oil? Is it just oil? Do you have coolant in your oil? Do you have fuel in your oil? Ooh, that's a bad one. And yeah, do take the time to use that sniffer of yours when you're checking your fluid levels. Go up here. If it smells burnt, you definitely need to change that fluid out immediately. Especially with automatic transmission fluid. If it is beginning to darken, just change it. Especially on diesels. Yes, I get it. Oil changes on diesels are very expensive in comparison to gas engines. However, you're dealing with way higher heat levels produced in the combustion chambers. Way more power with way less work done by the engine. It works. Diesels literally you compare them displacement to displacement on naturally aspirated stuff. Diesel to gas. They work half as hard to produce twice the power. Now, you may look at a diesel and go, well, blah, 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 blah. Well, tough shit. You want that torque when you're pulling a big load. Your diff fluid needs changed regularly too. Don't forget that. Don't ever forget that your gear oil and your diffs, they need changed. Lubrication is key. Don't get into this mindset of, oh, it hadn't caused me any trouble right now. I could let it go another 1,000 miles. Jesus, guys. Us mechanics can tell if you guys are lying. There are some cases, it is, literally, it is literally less than 1% of foobar situations that a mechanic will, when they dig into the engine, believe people. Oh, I wasn't running it that hard. Oh, bullshit. As we're sitting there looking at the internals that are steel, and they are just dark blue from the heat. Just be honest with your mechanic. That's you want a mechanic that's not gonna charge you like a wounded bull? Be honest with him. There's a reason why there is a lot of fluctuation in prices with mechanics from shop to shop. Okay, you could go to, just an example, I never would recommend this particular company. They've always been the shit company. They always are a shit company. I've known so much, well, ever having experienced anything firsthand or heard anything about them. Bad idea to use this company for lubrication. Walmart. There's a reason they charge like pennies on the dollar for oil changes. Because most times you need to double check them. Make mechanics show you what the oil level actually is right there in front of you. Proper oil level, that dipstick should be fully seated. It should be fully seated. Notice I said fully seated. And then directly removed. And you should see right there on the dipstick. Exactly on that scale. Okay, typically if it has just 2 holes in the dipstick and they're near the end, it needs to be somewhere between those 2 holes. The bottom hole indicates the lowest level you can safely run your engine at. That your engine can safely run at. The top hole represents full. If it is right there at the bottom of that, if it's not even on the damn thing, it hasn't even touched it. Ask them how the hell Metal is supposed to move without lubrication. Power is key. That's why I like to educate you all on this stuff. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here sitting up here in this skull of mine that I could tell you. Already I have gone way over on my time that I wanted to narrow this video to. But ultimately, the reason you saw a big interruption was because my SD card filled up and it transferred, it stopped the video, forced me to transfer storage to the internal memory, and that's why I like Android phones. They will, you try that crap on a frickin' iPhone, boom, right away. If you're in the middle of producing a video and you run plumb out of a video of capacity on the storage of the phone, you have just totally interrupted your brainwave. From scene to scene to scene, or just interrupted the flow of the video. I really do my best to keep these videos very unedited. That said, all y'all have a good one. And what a lot of trades have in common: sick patients. Mechanics, their patients are cars. And yes, the owners of the cars. Mechanics are a rare breed. They are literally part puzzle solvers and part believe me on this, one day when you have an interaction where I tell you, I am so sorry, but this is not anywhere near as simple of a fix as any of us saw, you watch how fast you get emotional. I go from mechanic to shrink. So, yep, gotta stop because now that storage is full too. Gotta go, bye.